No. Bestiality.
No, it's just like she was looking at me like, why are you listening to this video? Like,
Old World, Florida.
Old World, Florida.
Old World, Florida. Dude, I'm telling you, dude. Dr. Narco Longo came on and dropped the hammer of the god.
America's mother, daughter of Atlantis. God sent the weatherland. The devil sent the Spanish. Florida is Eden, the fountain of youth. Kali is deception. So Florida is the truth.
Welcome to Florida, baby.
Dr. Narco Longo.
Florida, it is everything. There's too much truth bombs being dropped. I can't digest it all.
Old World, Florida.
Please welcome Dr. Narco Longo.
Let us know how the audio is in the first couple minutes.
Do you have headphones, bro?
Please.
Oh, he's got headphones.
Yeah, he's listening. All right, here we are.
Testing testicles. How do we sound?
Let's see if they can hear us. Give us a thumbs up if you can hear us. Well, guys. Jeff, how's it sounding?
It's not coming through my headphone, but it should be.
Yeah, somebody said yes. Give us an orange.
They can hear
Coming
us.
through on YouTube. We're good.
Talk. Yeah, they can hear us.
whoa, that's crazy. Volume.
You can add that second
Never seen
camera
that.
angle too if you want in
Yeah.
there.
This
There you
thing's
go.
legit.
Damn, bro. We're here.
Nice.
We're at the Singing Giraffe reporting live.
Yes.
What's going on?
It's funny.
What?
We were here, what, a year ago probably? The same spot.
Not that long
No
ago,
way.
but probably like last
My first video
September,
hasn't-
October.
Hasn't even been a year ago.
Really? Yeah, you had like 1,000 subs. I remember that. When I stumbled across you as a young little homunculus,
Here we
and
go.
then, I brought you forward to this alchemical world, and then you just blossomed to a beautiful woman, bro. I'm so proud of you.
But we're still attached by the umbilical cord.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
that astral umbilical cord. So here we are. And yeah, what are we going to be talking about, man? I know you've been traveling around trying to earn these subscribers, trying to find the Garden of Eden. I know you've been doing a lot of videos, and we're probably going to be doing a video today too, hopefully. And yeah, dude, what's up? What's new here at the Old World, Florida? Welcome to the Old World, Florida show.
Yeah, I just got back from. Well, thanks for coming up, down. You went down, then up here, but thank you. I just got back from a road trip from the southeast, just really Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. Went to some native sites, saw some ruins, a lot of springs, and yeah.
You were just at a spring too. Which one were you at?
Well, most recently we went to a fountain, and the fountain is the radioactive fountain, the one that I put in a video recently in Punta Gorda. So we went to that fountain. Then we went to, before that, we went to Blue Spring in Florida, Wakulla Spring. What are the ones we go to, Jeff?
Springs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was.
Yeah.
Wakulla Springs was the best
Wakulla.
one.
Wakulla is the biggest, supposedly the biggest in the world.
Really?
The biggest spring, freshwater spring.
In the world.
Inland, meaning like inside a land
Mhm.
mass, not like oozing off into the ocean. Because there's some like big freshwater vents that just, ooze fresh water. Even though Florida has one of those giant ones too. In the Gulf of Mexico and off the coast of St. Augustine, there's spots where the fresh water pushes up so hard that it pushes the salt water away for 30 feet, 50 feet. And if you're in that pocket where it surfaces, you can take a bucket in the ocean, middle of the ocean, and take up 100% pure, not even a little bit salty, because of the density and the way the water separates itself and it comes up so strong. That's in St. Augustine. There's another one in the Gulf of Mexico. The one in the Gulf of Mexico, they actually took, and that's in my Fountain of Youth video, they took a camera and a dive team, crawled in a tiny hole in the middle of the ocean in the Gulf of Mexico, and then made it under someone's living room
What the hell?
into Florida.
Can you imagine
Yeah.
the snorkel Longo pops his head up like through a hole in your living room?
So
Like, it'd be crazy.
I've talked with Analog Ben from the Archivist channel, and we grew up with stories about like German submarines
Mhm.
coming
Yeah, Delray Beach.
down the Gulf Stream in between the Bahamas and Florida into the Gulf of Mexico. I have a bunch of articles about Nazi spies or beep spies getting detained like in Florida. Some of them in a submarine, some of them like with a bunch of explosives and
Really?
stuff. So they were coming here, but something we've been trying to connect is the U-boats with the fact that in like the 1800s they actually had underneath subterranean boat rides and submarine craft rides in Florida.
Wow.
So some of these passages are, well, I've shown that they're definitely big enough for huge ships to go through.
Mhm.
Craft, whatever, 2-person, 10-person, a big submarine. But if there's a spot where they could make it into the Florida aquifer from the Gulf, which there are, it's just whether there's a big enough one for a submarine to go through. In Mexico, there is. In Epstein Island, there's a submarine base over there.
Damn.
But
And wasn't Ghislaine or Ghislaine, however you say it, her whole thing was she had a company that was dedicated to teaching the elites how to operate their submarines, right?
really, I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Because I think that's where, right, we always focus on outer space.
Mhm.
And going out, we lost the technology to go to the moon,
Yeah.
but we're going to go to Mars with this mimetic magic occultist, Elon Musk, right? He's using meme magic and mimetic occultism, right? We're going to go to Mars, but we're going to go ahead and just fly right by the moon, whatever that is. We're going to go straight to Mars. I think that the real phenomenon and which has been portrayed in Hollywood is the bottom of our oceans. We have the Godzilla movies that came from the nuclear testing that they were doing. We have, Atlantis, right? On one of your latest videos, you talked about the crystal being at the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle, which I was obsessed with the Bermuda Triangle when I was a kid growing up.
Mhm.
And just like, what is it? Is it that crystal striking planes down? Is there aliens? Is Atlantis sunken underneath there? Like, what's really going on? Recently, I almost went to Bimini Bimini, but it ended up getting the elites. The lizard people took the cruise ship and they sent me somewhere else. They didn't want me to find Atlantis at Bimini. So again, I don't know, man. I think that the bottom of our oceans hold a lot of secrets. Right off the coast of Cuba, there was also those structures allegedly. I'm sure you know that one.
Yeah, there's supposedly pyramids off of Cuba. You have stories of, in the Saxer documentary, I interviewed people who found the tip of a pyramid, the top 6 steps sticking out of the sand, right near the Bimini Road, right by the Bimini Road. So stories of pyramids in the Bahamas are not myth. They're not made up. They're there. The AquaQuest crew has dove on it. It's purposefully made. It's solid stone, brick. And it's under the ocean. It's 20 feet under the water. So that's...
You have the 12 vile vortices, the 12 devil's triangles around the world. Over by the Devil's Triangle in Japan, you also have some structures off of the coast there. And in different places, the different 12 vile vortices, which are portals essentially, in these places of high strangeness and weird phenomenon, where the veil is thinner. And there are civilizations that I think that they tap into that, similar to the Bermuda Triangle, which is one of the 12, and they build structures on those.
Yeah.
As a sort of like the ziggurats were, they were using them to worship the stars or something. But again, back to this idea of these places of high strangeness, where there's something going on in the geology or whatever it is. And then obviously right off the coast, Bermuda Triangle. And one of the questions I had was, we've talked about the canals and the idea that Florida is the true Atlantis. Would you say a lot of these canals were artificially made, or are they naturally occurring? Because we're talking about them building essentially tunnels underneath the state. And one time I had a friend of mine tell me a conspiracy that they were going to plant explosives somewhere underneath of Florida, right? I've heard that theory before. They're trying to, do something there. But what are your thoughts on that? Are the canals artificial, or are they natural?
So, real quick, I want to shout out Sherry. Thank you for the $20 sticker, whatever that is. Thank you, Sherry. Devin, thank you for the $5. But so yeah, they're ancient. Most of the canals, the most famous canals, the intercoastal, the most substantial.
Nice.
That's probably really loud.
Oh.
The intracoastal has always been there. It was a freshwater closed system. It only had I think 3 major openings into the ocean from mainland Florida, natural inlets. Right now we've carved all of these inlets into it, so it's mostly salt water. It's a little bit brackish. But before that was a complete insular freshwater canal system that was a buffer between the salt water, the barrier island, and then you had Florida itself. Now that correlates to, I don't know if it's Plato's description or Herodotus, who said that Atlantis had a canal tracing the entirety of its peninsula. So, but you can also look at Frank Hamilton Cushing. Before any of the development or most of the draining had been done, Frank Hamilton Cushing was here in the 1890s, and he was writing stuff like works of the ancient canal builders, the canal empire of South Florida. This was what he was getting into. So there was ancient, the canals you see today have been dredged, probably by the Army Corps of Engineering, like the intercoastal was. It was streamlined, and they knocked out some shallow parts and dredged so that a big ship can go all the way through. But if you think about it as an ancient canoe highway, all of Florida was traced with ancient canoe highways. Some of them literally networks going from the East Coast to the West Coast, as far through. So the canals they're not just unique to Florida, because these do go all the way up to New Orleans for the most part. New Orleans is a mecca for the ancient canals. Tampa Bay is another. And that's exactly what would make sense to me, as Tampa Bay would be this produce capital of the ancient world. You could grow anything here, just about, and it's the garden. First thing you do when you build a garden is you choose the flattest part of the land, or you make yourself the flattest piece of land you can. Most well watered, irrigated. It's humid. It's perfect.
It's the Fertile Crescent, right?
Well, this little tip especially is where they would have been getting a lot of agriculture done. Now, this may not be the 1500s Indians that we're describing here, but at some point in the mound building empire that we know of as ancient Florida, canals extended from Tampa Bay. They go from everywhere. The Keys, there's people who do great satellite stuff looking at all the ancient terraforming off the Keys. So that's not my specialty, but there's people like Dutchinsons. Do you know that channel?
Mm-mm.
There's like a perfectly rectangular.
The problem with that,
islands.
though, Marco, is that
Sure.
you have people like, Paranoia, where they start to see things that aren't really there, like ancient city ruins in the middle of the Everglades.
Seeing shapes in clouds.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you see
Now-
Hello Kitty, and I see the Loch Ness monster.
Admittedly, in his video, I'd say 75% of what he's going over probably is that. But the way he starts out the video is with something very substantial.
Mm.
And then from there, he's kind of, oh, this could be that, this could be that. But there are some rectangular formations that don't occur. Jeff, we were looking at the map over at Safety Harbor, right?
Mhm.
Safety Harbor we were just in, which is essentially Tampa Bay, and which is supposed to be an ancient capital city of I think the Tocobaga people. And this mound complex is supposedly where that area gets its hurricane protection from, because there's this legend of a Indian princess and a shaman blessed the area and,
I've heard about that.
and all that, and it protects from hurricanes. And the apex of like this civilization was this mound in Safety Harbor. I was just looking at it from the sky, and in the woods you can see where the same tree is occupying like a huge, vast patch of land. But then within that, the same species of tree is elevated to where you can see a shadow coming off it in these lines, a clear perimeter of what used to be a building, a city square. It was an ancient wall, clearly, something that was raising the tree line.
Maybe a
where you
place
could
of
see
worship or something. Yeah, something.
And you could see that it was interwoven with the mound complex, because they have this whole park. There's a neighborhood, and then there's nature area, and in the reserve I could clearly see it. That's how Frank Hamilton Cushing was finding most of this stuff. Is of course everything's going to be covered with vegetation, but if you can see either clear elevation or where it's been depressed into the ground for a long way, that's either going to be a canal if it's down, an ancient canal that's been grown over, or if it's up, you have the remnants of something that's been constructed, right? Otherwise, it would all be level. So Frank Hamilton Cushing, and this is largely in the same area that he was.
You're talking about Hamilton, the one that came from the
Smithsonian.
No, because I believe there was another Hamilton. I don't know if it was distant. Like, not distant, but there was one more guy who was trying to clear out the canals here in Florida, and he came from a family that they made saws. He was an heir of the Saw Empire.
Saws.
But the thing is, right, Hecate and all these different, like the symbology behind that is what's important.
Mm-hmm.
But Hamilton rings a bell when it comes to Florida, and I don't remember if there was a Hamilton that was, again.
You're talking about the guy who did the Marco Island stuff?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. So canals go from here, New Orleans. Anyone can go on Google Earth, check out New Orleans. Shout out to the New Earth channel. That's how I got into a lot of this stuff. Was she used to do Google Earth assessments of like the Everglades, New Orleans, and it's insane because some of these are, you know, as wide as like the Mississippi in some parts, and they just run straight, take straight turns, and they just don't make sense. And you can see all these maps that were made, or diagrams, charts showing how they're plotted across the Florida in the late 1800s. So that's way before anyone was coming here and developing the land like we know it. So ancient canals, plenty of them. And the anchors, the canals go hand in hand with the anchors, because while the canals are mostly canoe highways, and hence the name canoe, canal, right? Blah, blah, blah.
And then one of the first videos that I ever watched of yours was, and I've heard you say this before, in America there is no such thing as pyramids. But you've claimed that there are pyramids in Florida.
Yeah.
And can you speak on that a little bit as far as like the is that
Little rosemary.
Rosemary.
what is it going to do to me?
Trigger your
Enhances
frontal
brain
lobe
function.
Is it going to make me smarter?
Oh, hell yeah.
for the next.
I'm going to sniff some books later, dude.
Very good.
I love doing that on my free time.
Yeah.
Just open up a good book and just give it a good sniff, dude.
Yeah, ours,
Inhale that
they all
knowledge.
smell like incense in here. They've been around, because the store's been around for 51 years. And the guy that we bought it from has been burning incense for 51 years. So there's books that have been in here for 20 years just soaking in incense, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I got the ones I got at the house definitely smell like incense, 100%. So the Floridian pyramids, bro. Heard you say that before.
Right.
It's pretty crazy to say because
What about landfills?
They were started on something.
yeah.
They
Because
started.
they're now the highest points in Florida
You know the word.
by a huge margin. Yeah.
Another thing with the language connections, that the Southeast United States come from the same language tree as Eurasia, is I think their word for mound is hapo, or hippo. It's a heap. It's a heap.
A heap, yeah.
You know,
Mm.
hapo, I think it is, or hepu, I think. But you see some of them. Some of them are T-shaped, so it'll be like a rectangular mound and then a walkway, like a ramp coming up, and from the top it'll look like a T. So those are common. You have, of course, just like cylindrical, like just piling it up, and it just comes to an apex. But then, yeah, don't do that, Jeff. This isn't the
You
Ellen
wanted
show.
your hand motions.
No.
It's huge. Got little hands, bro. Sorry. And by the way, you look taller on YouTube. You know, when I'm standing here next to you, not as tall.
That's hilarious.
Hey, Juan,
Back to back right now.
let's see what you're walking on right now.
No, I have to change
What am I walking
Give me
on?
your sandal.
What about it, dude?
It's 2.5 inches tall. Man.
All right.
I'm over here on a 1/4 inch.
All right, bro. You know what? I just want to point that out, dude.
Hey, we're all friends
Oh
here.
my God.
Yeah, don't be
I'm in the
selling
chat
fake
now.
news to the people, dude.
I pulled up the chat on my phone.
And we didn't think there was going to be anybody. We have 311 people watching us at 9:30 in the morning on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturn day, and it's a full moon tonight. I saw somebody say it was a full moon
It is a
tonight.
full moon, yeah.
So
Thought it was 9:30 p.m.
It's coming.
So apparently, I'm wearing a platform shoes according to somebody said
He
platforms. Whatever, dude. So, what were you saying that the way that they're laid out, almost like I think of ziggurats, right, where the ramp
See,
kind of goes up.
Andrew's in there.
Do what?
One of our friends in the chat.
Andrew.
Mm.
Store.
Yeah.
Nice.
Shout out to Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
What's up, Andrew? I see we got Ben in here.
Hi, Andrew.
Wake and bake. All right. So pyramids, yeah. If you want definitive, like clear proof, evidence, it's proof for me, but it's evident. You go to Crystal River, Florida, which I tried to go to, but it just didn't work out. The Crystal River site. Gary Daniels has studied the Crystal River site. He's like an expert on Mayan civilization. He knew that these mounds were pyramidal. And then they found 3 of them. There's 3 in the park. But then he knew that because of the way the Mayans arranged their pyramids, that there would be a 1, 2, 3, and there would be a 4th one in a predictable spot based off of the arrangement of those 3. So that 4th one, no one was willing to listen to him about because it was off in like a swamp, right? It was like a couple 100 yards away. He got some like late at night, like B-rate or B-list, like Discovery Channel, Indiana Jones type people to like come study it with him. And it was really dramatized. But they sent a LiDAR over the swamp and boom, there's a clear step pyramid. It's not a mound. It's not a heap. It's not a trash pile. It's clearly one level and then another color for a different elevation, then another color, then another color. And you can clearly see it's a 4-sided step pyramid, Mayan style in Mayan configuration. And then they had Mayan glyphs in that site as well on the pottery.
And the style of the pottery too was the same. I said with the bottom.
There's the titty teapots.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say it, but you
mammiform tetrapod.
Tickle bitties, yeah.
Pottery, yeah, which is breast-shaped pottery.
Nice.
Which was unique to the Maya. And Maya means like Maria. Maya were goddess worshippers.
Yeah, Miami,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Maria, Mimi. Those are all like Miami.
Yeah, and that's interesting. And maybe perhaps because everybody, when they think of a pyramid, they think of Egypt as soon as they which again, it's one of the 7 wonders of the world. So it would be right there. That's the main thing. But a lot of people fail to know that.
Jeffrey.
Cheers. Shout out to Jeffrey for that. Dropping stacks.
Making it rain.
You got to start doing more Saturday morning live streams, bro. Yeah.
JC, man, that's a good friend of mine.
So shout out to him.
We love you, Jeffrey.
Can we get a higher bidder? Can we
someone beat 200?
Can someone beat 100? Going once.
200 and Juan takes his hat off.
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna get some strip poker, but
I didn't cut my hair because of what we were talking about
this rosemary
the other night on stream, that it's an antenna. So I came prepared. I didn't cut my hair today because I wanted to absorb some of the enlightenment.
Me neither.
300 and I make my assistant eat this banana. On stream.
I don't know about that one.
No, he'll eat it in one whole bite.
Yeah.
That'd be dope.
With the peel.
Yeah. So you're not gonna get this anywhere. Where do you get esoteric, occulted history, and a dude eating a banana whole in one shot?
It's just not gonna happen.
It's not gonna. Old world. I mean, that's what you get here. Juan On Juan Podcast, Old World, Florida. So
this is live and unfiltered.
We're talking about Florida being Eden, and we're talking about megalithic structures on Florida. And I don't have the source, but Peter Levenda talked about how Florida, because I've heard people say Florida is the best state for manifestation due to the water. We know water retains memory. We know that there's water underneath our feet. We did that interview with the diver. I can't recall his name. I'm sorry. What's his name?
Brett.
That video is so good.
That video was it almost
so good.
It got a ton of views after the fact.
Brett Hemphill.
Bro.
What's his name?
I tried talking to my dad. I showed my dad that video.
Yeah.
He's like, bro, that's underneath a neighborhood. I go, yeah, there's entire whole rooms and cameras that open up underneath our feet right now.
It's one of my favorite videos. And there's almost no speculation in the whole video. It's just like straight up a guy,
straight science. It's okay.
I don't want to say like, non-conspiratorial, but it's just stuff you don't hear about, and there's no like reaching, it's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's already mind-blowing.
Yeah, like that's like if you were to interview an astronaut, right? Which
He said his dad was essentially an astronaut. I don't think he went to space, but he worked for NASA.
What are your thoughts on space? Because
Okay, well, I don't want to tie him up into it.
No. But what are your thoughts about space, bro?
Oh, it's. I mean,
because real quick. So let me.
How much time you got?
Let me finish.
all right. Let's start with the Tooth Fairy, then we'll do Santa.
All
and
right.
then we can do.
So Florida is the best place for manifestation. Peter Lavenda said that Florida is the best place to summon Cthulhu as well. Okay.
yeah,
And because he's talking about
the Gulf of Mexico.
the Gulf and then the shell mounds, right? That life in those shell mounds that could contribute to it. He talked about the mangroves. I don't have the source, but Mario from Symbolic Studies brought it up on a podcast I did the other day, and
Someone in the chat just said, Juan, my son told his teacher that space is fake and gay.
all right, so let's get to space because I brought up before we came in, right? We're talking about Florida. DeSantis has a big backer. Right? He's going to be running for president. He's got a big backer that is. Are we allowed to say that? Are we allowed to talk about
Yeah. Sorry about it.
that? Robert Bigelow from Bigelow Aerospace, which I know of him because
From
of
the ranch.
the Skinwalker Ranch,
Skinwalker Ranch.
and he believed, bro, he UFOs.
He's like
100%.
a billionaire that
Yeah. He wanted to build hotels on the moon.
he bought Skinwalker Ranch and he filmed the History Channel show there and all that stuff.
I don't think he
And-
filmed the
or
guys
whatever
that bought it.
they had
yeah.
a crew or something. But yeah, he studied there. Oh, you're right. The show was after he owned it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
after
but
the
he
fact.
owned it for a while and they did like all his studies and all that.
And that's the guy
And
said
he's
that
back.
would give his very
Yeah.
last dollar to DeSantis for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And DeSantis is kind of like a homunculus. He's kind of little. He's like what,
Yeah.
5 foot tall,
He's a meatball.
like a little meatball,
Yes.
right? Like a little chubby little finger.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts, bro? Because right on the 20th parallel, we have NASA. Right? NASA would never lie to us, bro. Think NASA would lie?
That's what the name means in Hebrew.
Come on, dude. I don't believe that.
Deception.
I think our government has our best. We love Biden too,
Yeah.
by the way, and we love the government. They're amazing and they do great things for our people. So
Yes.
again, just putting that out there. But what do you think, bro? Because we're here on the 20th parallel. Well, not here, but Cape Canaveral on the 20th parallel, along with Disney World, the most magical place on Earth.
Mhm.
So what are your thoughts, man?
It's also not far from Titusville, the Titans, or Titus, Emperor of Rome, I think. I don't think that's the Titus they say it's named for. But with Jupiter right there, I think Titan makes a lot of sense. And I think going to, challenging God, like challenging the creator, usurping the sun and the moon, or, the natural order of things, I see as the agenda of NASA. And it's only to subvert the minds of the people, because of course they can't do anything. They're just playing with smokes and mirrors and expensive fireworks that go down beneath the horizon eventually. I think it makes sense they would choose a place like Florida to deceive people because of its Florida's Neptunian influence. Neptune, which rules sea, maritime culture and sea travel and fishing and all this stuff. Neptune also rules not necessarily deception, but illusion. Neptune rules illusion and also mystery. So I think just like it's a good place to manifest, I believe in energetic charge, so things can be used good or bad.
It's the force.
Yeah, so you can come to Florida and perhaps, you utilize that energy for your dark deeds, and many people have. Disney, stuff like that. Disney's not too far from NASA, and that's probably
It is Kennedy Space Center, by the way.
Yeah.
Just to tie in all the
King Kill
all the
23.
conspiracies,
yeah.
And RFK is gonna be running as
Yeah,
well.
we also have that going on.
Yeah.
It's definitely, and I pointed out the book on William Shakespeare and how potentially William Shakespeare, I don't believe he was a fake person. I don't believe he was fake and gay. Maybe he was a little gay, but definitely not fake. I think that he was a real person.
Yeah. Shakespeare, by the way.
Yeah. shaking the
Yeah, and
spear.
he's pointed that out a few times. So,
But the idea where he talks
Willie.
about
and Willie.
the world being a stage and everybody has their entrances and exits, right? It's quite literally, and I've talked about how NASA, it's a whole big ritual, right? This the launching of the rockets. Maybe they're not going anywhere, right? But it's a ritual, right?
Mhm.
Where attention goes, energy flows. You have the Artemis, right? It's a phallus going into the womb, right? Trying to penetrate.
There are wording the moon is what they're trying to instill in our
It's
subconscious.
like the great mother, the
Exactly.
great divine feminine
It
just
is.
getting like rammed.
Yes,
Nice.
it's an assault,
Nailed. Yeah.
and it's all a subconscious theater, like a play,
Mhm.
because it's
Oh, dang.
through the cameras.
Someone
But-
mentioned it's the Globe Theater, Shakespeare.
The Globe Theater, yeah.
I got an episode coming
It's
out
good.
next on Monday about the global world theater. So hopefully it's going to trigger some people. But I talk about the ley lines and the parallels and how that's being
Yeah.
used and manipulated by, because we're talking about.
Well, theater is an anagram for the word Earth, just in itself. It's got an extra T, but still.
Well, on the thumbnail I put a globe on there because I know some people love that. But the idea that, right, because we're talking about Florida and these things of the ancients being hijacked. Well, when you take powerful lines along telluric currents, ley lines, parallels, etc., and then you name it something powerful on top of that line using, right, grammar comes from grimoire, right, magical spelling. It's all stagecraft. It's all spellcraft.
Yeah.
And then you charge it by doing, right, such as the Topical that we're doing, blood stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Blood stuff,
right?
Yeah.
To charge the land. I mean, I've heard that before, that that blood is the most powerful thing that the body holds.
Yeah, the Aboriginals use a lot of blood as well in Australia. A lot of blood ceremonies and
Mhm.
rituals, and interesting enough, it's a little touchy, but the Aboriginals circumcise. You know that?
Themselves?
Yeah, isn't that strange?
Then no, they have to have had
How
some
how
type
did
of
they?
rabbinic influence.
Yeah, how
Yeah,
did they?
the
That's
Dravidic Indian population.
how did they get to that? You know?
Mm-hmm.
It's where they get their beards.
Yeah.
From the rabbi, from some rabbi who
Yeah.
came through there eventually.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
is
that's what I'm saying. Is
circumcision,
Some synchronism,
beards.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Doesn't seem like something you just come up with. You know, like isolated.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, and I've heard that piece, right, put as it's symbolic for. My buddy Slick just talked about. I'm not gonna try and bring it up because I don't remember, but it says symbolic to like the rings of Saturn or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's and chopping the tip. Saturn rules the cap, the crown, the top.
Okay.
So if you see the member as a microcosm of the human body,
Nice.
which they do, you
Mhm.
know, you're taking the hood off.
You're unveiling it.
And I don't recommend circumcision. I think it's terrible.
Oh.
I think it's people like Robert Sepper. I don't know if he promotes it, but he says like it has its use.
Good hygiene, et cetera, et
No.
cetera.
Mhm.
But no, he puts it more in like a metaphysical thing.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Where you lose sensitivity,
So I've heard.
right? And it actually, according to the Bach saga, it's this initial trauma, which I mean, hello, anyone with eyes and ears can tell it's just despicable in the act, regardless of whether it has any benefits in the long term. It's terrible. It's traumatizing. The child has no method of conveying that they're in pain other than crying, which they are doing, screaming, terrified. But this is what, and it's typically the tribe of Dan. So I've talked about three bloodlines in the Eurasian or European tradition. It's the tribe of Dan that really spearheaded and normalized circumcision around the world through
Spearheading it.
yeah, and it is the people on the planet today with the most circumcised population who waged the most war on this planet today. And there's a fundamental hatred of humanity that comes after being circumcised that is present in even the most kind-hearted of people that you can't take out because you've hurt someone forever
Since the very
early
beginning.
on. Oh yeah,
Which
and it's sexual.
birth itself.
It's not only violent by nature; it's sexual and violent. And
Just traumatic, yeah.
And I've heard birth itself is a traumatic experience because you go from being in this, this warm, cozy place to then being exposed to the light.
Well, the Bach saga believes we are in the afterlife. This is heaven. This is the paradise. This is the fruits of our labor. We all are warriors. Men are warriors. Women were once warriors, right? At some time, we've all done our fighting. Combat, okay? Competition. Vicious discrimination. Who's better than who? And you don't win, you die, and you get left to the side. We all played that. We all were in that war. Then the egg was fertilized, and you became you. And now this is the afterlife. But since the impetus on beauty, intelligence, and health has been taken out of society, and we've been allowed to reproduce indiscriminately, you now have that battling impulse has not been extinguished, meaning you're programmed to fight tooth and nail as a sperm. And that's the only battle you've ever been designed to fight. But since the pressure of choosing the best and the brightest, the most beautiful, the most pleasant has been taken out of society, now not only does the mother, but the egg welcomes any sperm at will. Not at will, just
that whore.
Essentially. And what's happened is because all of these loser sperm have made it to the egg, they didn't have to fight to get there. They didn't have to compete and succeed. Meaning that this internal impulse of fight, everyone you see is your enemy because you're still racing to the end because you shouldn't have made it to the finish line in the first place. Being born after that, many men on this earth are stuck with a warlike disposition because of failures made in the fertility process. And this is why fertility rights mattered so much to pagans.
Number one, you didn't have to dig so deep, okay? All right, calling me a failure for going all the way, Number two,
that wasn't you.
You have to, succeed to succeed?
That's fun.
You know who that is?
The Bach saga?
No, Crowley.
Crowley?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's hilarious.
Chapter 69 or something like that.
Book of Lies. Yeah,
Book of Lies.
Yeah.
No, dude, you're like that. That's crazy. I never even thought about that before. Where it's like, I beat probably a heart surgeon and the next president of the United States, and like, boom, here I am, host of the Juan On Juan Podcast.
And now what? Because if we're not like living in this paradise that is this beautiful afterlife that we've earned, that impulse of competition has not been extinguished. It hasn't been satiated. We're now left in a kind of barbaric world with a complete loss of what to do for most people, because the arts and the sciences have been too compartmentalized or centralized, and people can't just learn things as they go, or what's the word to when you what's it called when you study with someone who's a professional for free,
apprenticeship.
Apprentice. People don't apprentice anymore. There's no like, you just go to the school, go to the slave factory.
Oh, bro, YouTube University, dog. I got my PhD from YouTube University.
Yeah.
You can literally learn anything you want on there for free.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that society itself is a lot dumber now than it has ever been since the very beginning. We literally have more information.
It's not dumber. It's more
ignorant. Like
there's more extremes. So the smart people are smarter, and then the dumb people are dumber.
Polarization.
Because I think if you really have that curiosity and you would have been sort of intellectual no matter what, what age you were born into. Now it's just like drinking from a fire hydrant or something.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Too much, and you just know everything. You know, you're like this Wikipedia
It happens to me.
brain, and then people who would have been sort of stuck in the mud are even more brainwashed.
And one thing that you brought up that triggered in my mind, I did an episode recently on the proto-evangelium and the seed wars, and the famous verse in Genesis, they have become like one of us, right? Like who was us? Some people say it's the Trinity. Some people say it's that there were more gods, or gods, the Elohim, whatever, the angels, etc., etc. And the guy that I was doing the episode with, he talked about how he believes, right? We see this in a lot of magical practices, the sexual aspect of it, where he believes that the secret to it on the reason that we got kicked out of the Garden of Eden was because we realized and were exposed to sex, like the sexual nature and reproduction. You talk about reproduction, and that's when we were aborted from the Garden of Eden, if you will. Like that's the way he put it, right? And then there's obviously these seed wars where you have these different bloodlines, these ancient bloodlines trying to corrupt the main bloodline, right? If you want to talk about the Holy Grail and all that stuff, but you know what I mean? Like, and you're touching on this, where how fertility is so important, and we see that the polarization, even in mainstream media, where they put these things out there. It's like, what can a woman can and can't do with their body? Like, they put this out there, and again, it's some sort of ritual. Going back to that idea that you just talked about, I never thought about what you just mentioned. That you just blew my wig back, bro.
I mean, everything I said, it should be like further argument against abortion too, because we are more preoccupied now than ever with discarding human life, which that's black magic right there.
Yeah.
As a nation, we're going to pay for all the abortion. There's no getting around that.
Yeah.
So every,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. No, again, yeah. And somebody asked me if I wear a wig. So we got over 400 people in the chat.
Jesus.
Nice. Is Donut in the chat? Let's see here.
So Analog said earlier that Maya, in like Buddhism, I think it's Buddhism, is illusion, like the subconscious.
Well, in Hinduism, it's
or Hinduism, whatever.
In
One of them, I don't know.
In Buddhism, it's Buddha's mom is Maya. Her name's Maya.
That's reincarnation, right?
What?
Maya.
Well, Maya is kind of like a generic or general umbrella. It gets tossed around, and as an English speaker, I couldn't even define it perfectly. But it's kind of like saying yoga. Like, does yoga mean stretching? Yes, but it also means a lot of other things. So
I'm thinking of samsara. I'm sorry. That's what I'm thinking of. Where's the reincarnation? Samsara.
well, it means Maya is like, it means everything. It means earth. So it means like the earth. It means the material world. It means matter. Because what is matter? It's madre, material, mutter, mother, mother, Mary. It's the same, Maya. So it means like, because matter is the illusion. It's like we're condensed into matter. So we're stuck here, which is not a mindset I subscribe to, but the material is the illusion. So Maya in that sense can be the earth, but then also the fact that you reincarnate and forget is a Maya type effect.
Sorry about these comments.
Maya.
Or something else, bro. Sorry.
What?
Slick doesn't say, hey, I'm here for the gangbang.
What the hell?
Oh man, that's why I can't look at the chat while I'm on the in the zone, bro, because it's stuff like this that really just throws you off your game. I'm sorry. Yeah, this I want to talk to you about. I don't know if you wanted to get into what we were talking about on the phone yesterday with the parasites, right? Because Donna was in the chat and we were talking about the Illuminati worms. Are we allowed to talk about that? Can we touch on that?
Yeah, sure.
Because I brought up, right, the Magus, Magi, Mary Magdalene, Magdalene, right, MAGA, all this stuff, and then the maggot. And here, how you went on this whole thing. I brought up Yaldabaoth, which is the lion-headed serpent, which is of the Gnostic cosmology, speaking on materialism.
Jung wore a ring with that on
with
it.
the talisman.
Yeah, because he had a vision of it.
So the reason I brought this up is,
Don't worry.
we're trying to get in, is because I've stumbled across this idea of it being some sort of larval existence. Now, hear me out. And the reason I say that is, you know, Grant Morrison, he's a chaos magician. He writes different comics, and he talks about hyper sigils. And
what was his name?
Grant Morrison,
I don't know.
of the Invisibles, and he talked about how he made a comic book, very similar to The Chosen One, where in the comic book his character was him, and whatever he would write about would happen to his character, what happened to him in real life. Whatever happened to his character would happen to him in real life. And he was talking about a trip where he went and took some psychedelics, I guess in Kathmandu or some weird place, and he was extracted out of his body and shown that reality is like a larva that these higher entities feed off of. And then you had Jung with one of his first mandalas, where it shows like these larvas right next to the tree of life, right, or the Garden of Eden, or whatever you want to call it. And then Chris Bennett talks about the tree of life, maybe being the wheat tree or whatever, a wheat plant type of thing. So again, this idea of it being some larval existence that we are here to be mined by some higher. I know you don't believe in higher entities, but again, that's.
What do you mean?
And I'm all about the interdimensional stuff.
Okay.
I know you don't believe in aliens,
but this is my thing: is what dimension? Because we've talked about this before. But to me, there's really, I mean, it's a little bit more complicated, but more or less two dimensions. There's the conscious and unconscious that we can actually experience. Anything else is like
subjective.
It's like mathematics or something, you know, like, oh, there's 11 dimensions or whatever, according to this formula. But in terms of like things you experience, there's your waking life, and then your not waking life, your dream life, your experience during psychedelic trips or mystical experiences. Those things are sort of not conscious. Like this you and this body is like not there, but you're still experiencing something. And all the things you're talking about, like the entities and, you know, all those sorts of things and the high strangeness, those are all part of the unconscious. So I don't think it means that they're coming from like other universes or other planets.
They're already in there.
No, I just think that they're part of our a different part of our mind, whether that's a higher part or lower part.
So we are Bigfoot.
Bigfoot is an archetype that exists in the unconscious. Yeah,
You're like Mothman, or you
Sure.
name it. I mean, whatever it is. Yeah, I find that interesting. And then, on the maggot or magus,
yeah.
or
They're like characters in a dream.
or
basically.
parasite. He was talking about how the parasites shape our reality, right?
Oh, definitely.
And you have Paracelsus, which is kind of like parasite.
Yeah.
So again,
Paradise.
You got
It's
paradise.
almost an anagram.
So I don't know. He was definitely onto something because he would keep adding to his name. So Philippus Areolus, Theophrastus Bombastus Von Hohen. It didn't start like that. Every now and again, he would add something new to his name as some sort of talisman or something.
Yeah.
And we know this wasn't just some regular Joe Schmo guy. We know that this was the father of toxicology, which again, we know that that's a real big thing for the elites, right? The pharmaceuticals and all that stuff, where they use these chemicals to do things, right? So again, and then you talked about how if you eat certain meats, you're 100% tainted with some sort of parasite. And what if existence itself, right? Yaldabaoth being a little parasite, what if that's what's been controlling the simulation this whole time?
Yeah, so the same way that in a perfect world, a priest or a pastor is kind of like the conduit or the transmitter for like this benevolent energy that the priest knows he's only so good, right? But if he submits himself to God or a more benevolent power, he can be capable of doing more good, right? Well, or the same way that you might bless an item, hoping that it's a conduit for good, right? God's good grace bestowed into something that you can keep around. And same way you bless a meal, right? All these things, you're hoping for a blessing, but it's a conduit, a transmitter type effect where there's a good energy and you're hoping to have something resonate with it materially. Parasites are the exact opposite. These are negative energy conduits, meaning that when they make it into your body, they open you to demonic influence. Now, when Jesus swept out the church and swept between the pews and kicked out, the money changers and the worms, the serpents,
When he went in the desert,
Well,
fasted.
he fasted
Yeah.
too. Fasting. Why do you have to fast? To get rid of your worms. What is the clarity that's brought about by not eating? It's not some special phenomena where God just hits you over the head and he's like, you've earned it now, and I'm going to give the realization to you. No, you do away with your parasites that are restricting you. That's why I'm so gung-ho about this stuff. If you take in citrus on an empty stomach, you're eviscerating your parasites.
You got any more cups, bro? Let me get something.
They like sugar, but not this type of sugar. Fruit sugar in its natural form, not removed, not processed, okay, is like lava. It's like, it's
Drano.
it's like Drano.
Is that why McDonald's serves orange juice?
No, they serve concentrated shit. If you have to go to, here's a good one for everyone out there, all my fast food lovers. Chick-fil-A, get their lemonade. Chick-fil-A's lemonade is worth getting.
It's the elixir of life.
It's purified water. It's good enough water. It's pure lemon juice, pure lemons, and then pure cane sugar. So I would drink that. I'll drink.
I have. It's amazing.
Lemonade's good, but of course, orange juice is the best because you don't need to sweeten it. You don't need to water it down. It's just perfect. So, yes, parasites. The same way that those things, good things, can be conduits for good energy in the body, in the community. Parasites are the opposite. They consume. They are like vacuums, right? They don't contribute anything. They only consume. So you'll see many people around the world are largely on autopilot, being fully controlled by their parasites. This is not like a science fiction thing. You can look it up. We all know about the bugs that the parasite forces them to go kill themselves.
I talked about T. Gandhi, and people were calling me crazy, and how the gut determines
Yeah.
the psychological,
Of course.
and they're like, oh, you're just because it has to do with the zombie phenomenon, this NPC mindset.
Mhm.
And I talked about T. Gandhi that comes from cats, which you got a cat, right? Familiar?
Yeah.
And how that affects people's behavior. I mean, that's been proven. Look at Brazil.
Yeah.
And it pushes mammals to have more risky behavior, right? So the rat will be attracted to the cat's urine.
And hear me, that's a good one. And I'm not denying the link between toxoplasmosis, cats, suicide, behavior like that. But there are holes in that assessment, and they're covered in my cat video.
One of your first ones, right?
Yeah. So, cats are revered in most places around the world. In India, cats are not revered. They hate cats. Okay,
Comments are hilarious.
they kick them out of, they throw them out windows. They hate cats in India. India is one of the few places where cat is like a slanderous term. Like cat means
Pussy?
low.
Yeah.
No, not pussy, but like.
Well, you
low.
call somebody that in a wrong term, like don't,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
But usually cats represent wealth and order and cleanliness and perfection, purity, discipline. Like they're quiet, they're peaceful, they're solace. Dogs in most cultures represent chaos and disorder, and lowliness and poverty. Like, oh, go sleep with the dogs, out on the street with the dogs. Well, in India, it's the opposite. They actually view cats negatively. Not entirely. I'm not speaking for all Indian people, but the general view is that cat is like the outdoor, dirty, street, low, poor person animal. So they don't keep cats in the house the same way we do. Especially not, they don't pet them and give them, cute little names. Some people do, I'm sure, but this is not the norm. Okay. You know how much toxoplasmosis they have in India? A shit ton. So you can't equate that to their cats because they don't keep the cats in the house. But what do they eat? Japanese people who might not have toxoplasmosis, who are used as some of the evidence because they love cats in Japan.
How are the Japanese still
commit suicide?
Yeah, because they eat tons of fish.
That's what I was going to get to.
And fish is
I love
coated
sushi.
in parasites.
I was going to tie it into the
I love sushi, bro. Come on, man. Don't do it to me, dog.
Fish is like that one you don't even have to think about. That's not like a conspiracy. It's just raw. I mean, of course there's parasite. And then they love cats. So they're just getting double whammied.
Yeah.
And then they're not
DP,
they're not reproducing. They're killing themselves. They're like Hello Kitty culture. I mean, they have good stuff too, but like the modern Japanese culture is sort of on the decline.
So suicide, of course, is a link, but it's not just cat ownership. It's overall parasitic influence. It's not just the toxoplasmosis, because in Japan, their rate of suicide is largely driven by their consumption of fish, not their ownership of cats. Because Asian communities that don't eat as much fish, that still have as much cats, don't commit suicide anywhere near.
My wife is half Japanese. Her whole side of her mom's is straight up Japanese.
Yeah.
Like,
cool.
Like her uncle looks like Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, that's cool.
They're proud people.
Yeah, I love the Japanese. Sure.
I love them too, but it's like it's crazy what you guys are saying. I've never heard that before like that. And then the other half is Brazilian, so you got the other Tigandi on that side, right?
Nice.
So, like he said, sushi, fish. Now, energetically, is fish better for you to eat than cow or pork or anything with a hoof? Yes. And if you're transitioning away from animal onto the World Economic Forum 2030 impossible diet, just kidding. But if anyone's looking to purify themselves like energetically through diet, hooved animals must be done away with. Pork especially. Pork must be done away with. This is even observed by rabbis who will eat just about anything. Trust me. They do not eat pork. Some Native Americans who didn't even know what a pig was, allegedly, when they saw that fucking thing, were like, hell no, we're not eating that. And they didn't for like 400 years. So the pig is that off-putting to most people on the planet. And if you lived anywhere near one, most people would probably rethink how much pig they'd eat living, getting to know them and seeing how they live, how dirty
the anatomy is similar to humans too.
Not only are they like, what is it, over 90% human genetic similarity, our organs are cross-compatible. I mean, that says they take pig organs over monkey organs for humans, There's people walking around with pig organs on this planet.
Heart vessels and stuff.
Especially in China. So, yes, and the hairless pig as we know it, was originally engineered by the Romans to feed their legions into a state of rabia. It made them rabid, made them fight like berserkers. So it made them careless. You want to talk about, motorcycle crashes and stuff, about MMA fighters trying to get toxoplasmosis on purpose. Do you know about this?
Really?
Yeah. Joe Rogan talked about that like years ago. It's a real thing. They want it. Not only do most MMA fighters already have it, but the ones that find out what it is.
Too.
Yes.
Like some of the best are Brazilian.
And they're the ones who fight on the ground most, where you're more likely to get the parasites straight off another dude's
like
sweat.
ringworm and all that.
Ringworm straight off the mat. They all get ringworm.
I've hunted hog.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I killed my first hog.
Yeah.
Because I would do it at night with night vision or thermal, whatever. And when I first hunted in the daytime.
Just as the Lord intended.
Looking and hearing the pig kind of psyched me out, and I looked over at my buddy and go, dude, is it looking at me? Like, because again, it had it in its eyes. You know what I mean? Like, it was something different than like a regular animal, like the pig. And that sounds weird, but it psyched me out. Yeah. And before I could let go of the bow, I was kind of like, I felt bad because it was like, it felt like a person. I mean, that was like and now you're talking about this and right. And then, but then also Jesus put the legion and the demons into the pigs, didn't he? Into the swine and drown them too. So, and didn't Jesus take out the demons and put them in the swine and drown them?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So, but you're talking about like these guys are on the ground, right, ground and pound, and they're acting like the animal that they're eating, kind of sort of, right? Because it's on the ground, it's in its own feces, et cetera, et cetera. They're rolling around in the blood, right? Like MMA is real, like they roll around in their own blood, bodily fluids. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, dude, I don't know, man. That's really weird.
One thing with the parasites, you have to be careful because you do, like you were saying, you do have to purify yourself. You have to, be aware of that. That is something that you should be fixated on to some degree. You don't want to become obsessed with it because it does have that danger. It is a pitfall with parasites to become paranoid and to sort of become obsessed with this idea that almost like you're not in control, and it becomes a scapegoat more or less. And some people probably are happy. They're like, oh, well, thank God I have parasites, because if it was all on me, then
that's because I was a Sagittarius.
Yeah, I have to take all the responsibility. But like it's just thank God it was just my small intestine.
It's like, no, Becky, you're just a piece of shit. Okay, it's not because you're an asparagus or Pisces or whatever.
So you definitely have to be aware of it in a healthy way, and not because some you can go way overboard with that stuff and just be almost like get to like starving yourself or something.
And then right, we're talking about pigs, consuming pigs, and then you have people like serial killers, some that consume other people, right? Like Dahmer. Imagine what that might do to you.
Have you heard of, I think it's called prions? It's when you cannibalize. It's a thing. I'm gonna look it up real fast.
And there's a thing if you eat bear.
Someone probably knows about
there's
this.
a certain bear, if you don't cook it right enough, there's a parasite in the bear, and it burrows into your muscle. And you can take, I think they do antibiotics or something for it, and it kills them. But if somebody was ever to consume your meat, they would get the worms again. So it's like this compounding thing. So there was ever like an apocalypse or whatever. Yeah. That somebody would have to.
So there's a thing called a prion is a type of protein, and you mostly get it from cannibalizing. So if you eat another person, it's almost like a protection against that.
Kuru.
Yeah, it is like kuru. And prion, there's no way to stop it. Like once it's happened, like this protein is in your brain, it will continue. It's almost like a cancer. It will continue to spread and make you go absolutely.
Does eating more
like mush brained?
Does eating more human slow it down?
That's a good question. Like feeding it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was one of the experiences I had when I first started hunting, and yeah, a lot of people like I think there's the Cathars. They were pescatarians. They didn't eat other animals. They saw everything as like had a spirit and a soul.
Yeah.
The Egyptians were like 95% pescatarian.
Greeks,
the ancient Egyptians in their prime were largely pescatarian, and it would be, remember, agricultural is a royal privilege, it not inherently, but that's the way it's been structured, especially in these old empires, is you control the grain, you control the population. Not saying there weren't benevolent rulers, but that's still, that's the dynamic that they're operating with. You have all these, a lot of times Saturn being like the highest deity, in the order, would typically have the scythe, because he was not just the reaper, but the harvester. So the harvest played a large role, not only in the mythology, not only in the community, but the mythology of like especially if you have deified rulers. Well, I can make it rain, and I can make I can make hundreds of
Apocalypto, right?
hundreds of miles of fields grow or not grow. It's up to me, and stuff like that. But you also had
And I'm just thinking about, again, that Apocalypto movie where they would, having this knowledge, he knew that the eclipse would happen. So having this knowledge over the people, they would have some sort of control. And then right now I'm thinking, because you're talking about the Scythe and Saturn, right? Father Time. Well, Bill Gates is one of the largest landowners in the United States ever.
Yeah.
A lot of agricultural land. So it's like you're talking about benevolent leaders and giving to the people, but what's up with that? I mean, is it like remember the movie Jurassic Park, where they wanted them to get the GMO crop so that the big locust or the grasshoppers, whatever it was, wouldn't eat their crop? And they had like this but it was only one large corporation that had the patent for that one crop, or else and people wouldn't jump on board, so they would send these locusts out there to destroy their crops. It's like to force them.
Yeah, they do that. I think the way they do it now is these companies have GMO crops that they've invented, basically, and they patent them.
Yeah.
So now they own that genetic design, and then those crops will like cross-pollinate like the neighboring farm.
Make a hybrid.
It's like the seeds will like blow over and stuff into the neighboring farm that's owned by like some mom and pop operation, and then they will go over there and be like, hey, can we test those, because we think you're like stealing our patented design. And then turns out like half their crops are now patented by some big corporation. They're like, yeah, we're gonna have to seize all this or shut you down or buy you out, or
really?
Yeah, so it's just because they're basically stealing their patented property.
Their seeds, they know their seeds will blow into other farmers' land.
They're blowing around patented, basically private genetic designs of plants, and then saying like, wait, you're growing our stuff on your land.
That's slimy, bro.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
And I mean, and I'm touching on that subject because recently we've seen like that they want to make a mammoth or something as of recently. They do want to clone one. Yeah. So I mean, it's sci-fi.
They're gonna take like a elephant and clone it with some mammoth DNA or whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a real phenomenon that's going on right now, and that's what these elites have on their mind. I mean, quite literally, it's alchemy. They're just alchemizing everything, and I don't know, man. I think they want to transmute humanity itself, reality itself, through the use of these symbols and all these different archetypes, right? They speak to people's souls. That's what mimetic occultism is. It's propaganda that speaks to the soul. It doesn't just stop at the regular stuff. It goes much deeper, and that's why you see that polarization. And then I think it activates those parasites that you're talking about. Like it'll activate these things in people that brings out, right? You have Gustave Le Bon that talked about a sort of contagion, this metaphysical aspect to crowds. Crowds become their own living entity or an organic being. And within that, there's a contagion that spreads around the crowd, pulling everybody in.
Yeah. Nietzsche said, he said that in individuals, insanity is rare. In crowds, it's the rule.
Interesting. And he went insane too, right?
He went insane.
Yeah.
But I think he had syphilis.
So they say. Or did he go insane by looking into the subconscious?
Possible. I mean, he was a prophet, so it's a heavy burden.
Towards the end of his life, he was Dionysus. I think it was.
Yeah. He was basically like Dionysus incarnate.
And like Carl Jung was like, you have to worship Abraxas, which is like the little parasite. Right? It's like that's the true God. That's the one God above all gods.
But channeling that level of like prophet material, being like that open is quite the burden, I would imagine. Having that level of, like Jim Morrison or something, where you're just like this, you're like this creative like daemon, and like that takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, so it could drive you.
Yeah, you burn out quickly for sure. You're not gonna live to be like 100.
Especially if you figured out a way to tap into something much greater than yourself, which that's the dark self you talked about. I've heard it put that the dark self reveals things that right? The secrets of the universe. If you're able to tap into that.
Have you read the Red Book by Jung?
I'm familiar with it. I haven't
Yeah.
actually read it. I have the
Yeah.
reader's edition.
There's a video on YouTube of someone reading one of the stories where he meets Satan as like this ginger like Viking rider. Dude, it's crazy, the story. And he has like this astral like dream interaction with the devil, who's like this massive ginger Viking, like on a horse
Those fucking
that
ninjas,
rides up
they don't
to
have
him,
souls.
and it's crazy. And they like talk back and forth and like riddles, and he's trying to trick him and stuff.
So the devil was a ginger.
Yeah.
Wow, bro.
I think he calls him the Red Rider or something, Red something, and it's crazy.
Interesting.
You
Yeah,
should watch it.
I haven't. I'm familiar with it, but I haven't actually read it, so I'll have to read it. And the black books too are really interesting
Well,
too.
Crowley had a funny one where he said that during some kind of mystical experience, he said, God and Satan battled in front of me, and God won. And he said, but the only question afterwards was which one was God. That was funny.
So what else you got, Doc? What else you got?
Nothing, man.
Want to take some calls and
we can take
have
some
people
calls.
call in, see for the
Sure.
last. All right, because we have 30 minutes left.
We can
long as you wanna
bleed,
go.
we can bleed over a little.
You can use the bathroom.
The boss is here, so he's.
Oh, yeah, we can go till 12. So.
So yeah, we're gonna put the link out, guys. If anyone wants to call in, get you up here. We can talk about springs, radioactivity.
What was that one ring that you were the spring that you were talking about that had the chemical in it that relaxes you or something like that?
Lithium.
Lithia springs, right?
Yeah,
that
so-
was really interesting too.
There's Lithia Springs in Tampa Bay. That's named for the lithium in the water.
I thought you were bullshitting me when you told me that.
No, for real. And then in just south or east of there in St. Petersburg, also Tampa Bay, but on the peninsula, is a water fountain that had an extremely high level of lithium in like the 60s, 70s, 80s, and then they changed it to like tap water. So now it's municipal water. It's nothing. But this old thing was advertised as the fountain of youth, and that was all lithium water. It had magnesium and sulfur too. But
What happens if you drink lithium? What happens to you then?
well, lithium's a mood enhancer,
What
mood
is? Have you seen
stabilizer.
this?
Mood.
You know what that is?
I was there yesterday.
Is this nearby?
That's Punta Gorda.
Oh.
That's like 2.5 hours away.
Yeah.
I was there yesterday. We drank from it. That one is radium.
This one?
That's radioactive. That one's radium. That's the radium fountain.
Well, somebody sent it out. It's Donald. Shout out to Donald Jr. on Instagram. Sent it to me.
We drank from there
Really?
yesterday. Yeah, filled up some, brought some back, gave some to my brother.
Interesting. Yeah, I never heard about that.
I feel great.
Yeah,
I
feel good.
didn't really have any complaints to begin with, and I was bathing in springs the whole way down here, so might have already been completely healed.
Yeah.
My neck was hurting from like being on my laptop so much, driving so much. It was really hurting. Drank that water, completely fine. Also, when you drink these like high mineral content waters, you don't feel thirsty for like hours. Like one sip is like as much hydration as you get from a whole,
I know it's not a sponsor, but where does this come from?
Smart water is complete garbage. I'll call them out right now.
Oh, well,
Give
I
me that
mean,
shit.
think your brother is feeding me garbage.
Smart water is trash. It's made by Coca-Cola.
Belongs
Is it?
in the Seminole landfill.
It's complete trash. If you reverse the polarity or like deionize or throw a electrical charge into the water and separate the chemical bonds between the minerals in the water, it literally turns black. I swear to God. If you put
Am I gonna die?
Cathodes. Smart water is black,
This-
and it's cellularly rearranged or molecularly rearranged to where it's see-through.
Bruh.
But there's so many minerals and garbage in it that it's literally black in its natural form.
The same people who advertised FTX advertised smart water. That's all you need to know.
Well,
don't
I mean,
name drop.
right, the financial guy drinking smart water would make sense.
Smart water is BS. Guys, be careful with it. I recommend if you have to go drink a bottle.
What do you think of reverse osmosis? Is it good? I drink reverse osmosis.
Okay,
water.
now reverse osmosis and distilled for all intents and purposes, we'll just consider distilled because you're taking mineral water
Mhm.
that's possibly contaminated,
It is.
and then what you're being left with in both distillation or reverse osmosis, which are largely the same but not entirely, they're not synonymous. What happens is you have
I think it's put the Paul said drink beer. Paul gets it. You see, Paul Johnstone, he gets it. Just drink beer, bro.
hell no. Beer is the most disgusting thing. It tastes like piss.
Even worse.
If you drink IPAs smell like and taste like piss.
Oh, yeah. People just drink that stuff to impress each other. And if people weren't so insecure and riddled with anxiety, no one would ever even dream of drinking that stuff. It's for fools. And it's either foolish people who need to be in the presence of others, or it's smart people who need to fool themselves down, dumb themselves down to be around others. So no bueno. Nothing good comes with alcohol. Its only application, the reason God put it on this earth, was for topical application. And it's a universal solvent, meaning these old gods of wine, goddesses of wine, are not gods of alcohol. Wine does not mean alcohol. Wine is essentially like saying juice today. Something that is liquid extracted from a fruit, an herb, mixed in with water. And why would alcohol almost always be present? Because alcohol is a universal solvent. It strips the essence out of an herb perfectly. If you know what an essential oil is, the only way to make a true essential oil is to run alcohol through it. So when you run alcohol through something, you strip it of its essence, and what's left over is the body. So let's say we press this with alcohol, or we run alcohol through this banana. We get, essential oil of banana.
Mm.
We'd be left over with, the banana would still be there, but all of its essence would be gone.
It's like
The
how
flavor, the taste would be gone.
alcohol opens people up to demonic possession too, I've heard.
So exactly. So this is the application of alcohol. You use it to strip the essence out of something you need. What do you think that does to us when we run that through ourselves time and time and time again? There's no building back what you lose.
No
from
build
alcohol.
back better.
There's no building back from alcohol. That's my position. And it's one founded on experience,
Mm.
extreme experience,
Mm.
not just, I don't like alcohol.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from, bro. And the word bar in Sumerian means altar. So you drink wine and spirits at a bar. So can't be good. It's not a good combination.
What was the question?
Just talking about alcohol. We got some people in here. I see Andrew in here. You ready to hop on?
Put your nipples away, Andrew.
Hey, do you want to give Shane your headphones for a second?
I have a better pair for him.
I didn't even know this one was on. What happened here?
I guess.
Oh, cool.
Just he only needs one bud.
Just one bad.
All right. So we might have to be doing like some muting after we get the questions or topics because I can hear myself.
Yeah.
Andrew, what's up, man?
What's up, guys?
How can the doctor be of service?
Hey, so do you have some other videos besides that largest oak tree? And I think I saw you on Instagram up at Angel Oak too. So I wasn't sure if you're going to do a video about that. It's a cool place.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to take these off, or else it'll drive me crazy.
Yep.
We went to the Angel Oak after the Spooner Oak. That's the Spooner Oak in Georgia, Iron City. That was on the trip. After we went there, there's a lot of other stops we took, but we went to the Angel Oak in South Carolina. So we did film something there. It's going to be out, but there's a lot of stuff that we filmed before then. I just got back from this trip, so we have like a lot of backlogged content that we have to get through that we took. But yes, the Angel Oak will be featured. And there's some interesting stuff with the Angel Oak, like how many colored people were allegedly hung on it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, most people think it's like, or they are just in love with this tree, but for a lot of other people, it's like this huge. Some people actually want to take it down.
Yeah.
So you tell me if you see a political agenda perhaps being pushed, like, hey guys, they were hanging your ancestors on that tree. You know, maybe we should take it down. And this might actually have been a legitimate attempt to get the tree taken down under the pretense of racial justice, which is it's BS, because I know for a fact they hung white people under that tree too. But yeah.
Well, cool. Are you guys gonna have open the store at like noon or something?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my buddy Andrew.
Somebody said 3 kids, loads of weed. There's only one person on the weed today right now, so just want to point that out. We can take a guess who that is.
All right, guys, that was it for me.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, later.
You're a good one, man.
Later, brother.
Oh, well, Morgan. Jeff, leave this.
Hello.
This guy's funny.
I hope the signal is working today. I think it is. This is good.
Yeah.
This is good.
As long as you don't get
Yeah, I noticed.
closer to the computer.
Yes, exactly. I'm trying to keep myself even as well. So it was interesting when you were speaking about the demons and the blood and like the water and the consciousness, because when you're going in and out of consciousness, time isn't present, like in hypnosis as well. So if you can do self-hypnosis and bring yourself under, you can travel in time and space in your own mind. And here's the part where I get existential, is the people with the ability to radio into other people's minds, because we all are on the wave. How do you get on the wave? You need to access your subconscious. Now, this is where the Christians can take a seat, because, you know, I don't care if you think that I'm accessing demons. I'm not. If you're worried, ask Jesus Christ to put his spirit over top of what you're doing and then bind it, and you're fine. All right, like we all can talk to each other through radios. We all have a receiver in our head, and we can use it. You just need to understand how to access your subconscious, which is to sincerely pray and ask to. And you can get to your heart, which is other people, or else you're stuck alone in the outer darkness. Like I'm trying to esoteric the scriptures here for you a little bit, but
Yeah, Morgan.
yeah.
You got any questions for us? Any topics?
Well, I was what you guys were talking about at the beginning. Like, at the beginning, like, oh, when you guys were talking about inside the demon-possessed guy, and when Jesus was talking to him about the blood, what was it that you guys were saying about that? Because it was going through the chat.
Can you hear?
Yep. What were we saying about demons, blood?
Yeah,
Jesus?
and
How
yes,
we put him in the pigs?
And the swine
Yes.
drowned them.
Yeah, he cast demons out of people, exorcised them, put them into a herd of
Yes.
swine, and then cast them
because
out, or drown them. He
because
ran
they
into the lake.
yes, because they preferred it
He bound them.
to what was coming, which was the Christ way. And they're like, can we get out of here before the Nexus arrives? Can we get
Shout
out
out
of the
to
path of the way?
Undestroyer. $10.
So that's what I wanted.
Thank you.
That's what I wanted to like kind of talk about and project, was that from Christ's mind, because he has total access of time and space in his kingdom of his mind, which is God. In the book it says that, and God meaning all. And then the wave that was coming, the demons are like, yeah, we can't stand that. We would prefer to be in the pigs than let that hit us.
Yeah.
So that's what happened, because they willingly left the pigs. They had to ask Christ if they could transfer. Can we get a transfer allowance, Son of God? Yes, because it's his station, because he's the message, or the beep, 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 beep. Doesn't mean much, doesn't mean anything.
Oh my god, dude. This guy needs his own channel.
It's like,
Guy's always a trip, bro. Whenever he comes on.
it's
His mind's like
she woke up
echoing and
screaming
stuff.
loud in the
It's like
secret
he was
secret
crazier.
garden. She won't give up the search for the ghost in the hall. It's like, it's just something we do up here in Canada. But yeah, I just wanted to come up and share that trippiness,
Canada. That explains it.
Yeah. The thrill is the chill. I've got on my Technicolor dream coat.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Well, Morgan,
Yeah.
I'm going to bring on the next caller.
All
Thank
right,
you.
peace, guys.
Thanks for
Take it
calling in,
easy,
man.
brother.
Great vibes, as always.
What he said
Thank you.
about time and space, though, is interesting, because when you were talking about space being fake and gay, and you were asking him about it, Ken Wheeler, I don't know if you know Ken Wheeler.
I've heard the name before.
He does stuff with Santos Bonacci.
Okay.
He's into like Walter Russell and Tesla and all that, like magnetism, physics, and all that. And he says that space is fake and gay by definition, because it has no properties. So something cannot exist which has no properties. You know what I mean? Space is a absence of properties. It has nothing. There's nothing to it. It has no color. It has no weight. Has no matter to it. Has nothing that you can describe. Therefore, it doesn't exist in like a technical sense.
Therefore, it's non-binary, right?
Yeah.
What does that mean? One thinks he's a kid. I'm a grown-ass man.
It's the old swan. How old are you?
29.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang, I thought you were older.
Damn, bro, I look that rough.
No, you got your stuff together then.
Jeff, you see my message?
No, it didn't go through.
Private chat.
In the private chat on the thing.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm getting ready for my Saturn return, bro.
Oh, you're already in it.
Am I in it?
Commenced.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Guy Hawks. You're in here, man. What's up, buddy?
It's Guy Fox. That's what.
Yeah. Guy Fawkes, last chance, man.
He just like fucking farts on stream, bro. Just like flips it.
He's a CIA.
Probably.
CIA, just a Fauci bot.
Should have trying to triangulate our location.
Mossad.
We should have hit that like button, everybody, wherever you're on my stream or Narco's stream.
So desperate.
Hit that like.
Beg more,
subscribe.
beg some more.
Like and subscribe, guys. Come on,
no.
dude. Like and smash that like button. Right?
I know that subconsciously. They don't need to be told.
All right, well, we need it.
Tell them the opposite. Unsubscribe.
Unsubscribe and unlike, thumbs down it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that idea, I've looked at space now as of recently after reading Kenneth Grant.
Yeah.
As like a rite of passage, as like a place where you can go and it's accessible.
Yeah.
But it's, what are you opening up yourself for?
Yeah.
It's that Faustian pact. Like,
Sure.
yeah, you're gonna go out there. We lost the technology, whatever it is. But it's like, what are you willing to give up? Are you willing to give up a piece of yourself to go up there?
Yeah.
And if you look at an astronaut, what all they go through is like a rite of as an initiation, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. And they don't ever recycle them.
And stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. They usually don't go back.
It's like a one and done type of thing. Once you lose your soul.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not calling astronauts have no souls, but
Well, Joseph Campbell said, and obviously he was really influential on Star Wars. George Lucas was almost like a student of his. And he said that space is just the next frontier of myth. So it's like this vague, distant thing, land or whatever you would call it, place, where we can just project. It's totally blank. And obviously it has the archetypal, stars and all that kind of stuff, that astrology. So it's perfect for it, actually. And now we're just projecting our myth into that space, whereas we used to project it here on Earth, but now that we've sort of covered the Earth, but you did say maybe deep sea stuff is also a next
well, as above, so below, if you want to go there.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and if you look at cosmicism, which is an H.P. Lovecraft thing, and the Gnostics also believe that every single different celestial body, every single orbit was a different dimension. So what if we're staring into another dimension or seeing another dimension? Crowley talked about how we are all stars. I mean, what did he mean by that?
Well, what he meant by that was that everyone has their perfect path and orbit. And if you're perfectly aligned with your orbit, that you won't be bumping into other things. Like the stars aren't like banging into each other like a traffic jam. They're just perfectly going across the sky in like this dance, and they all have their paths, which are not moving.
Interesting.
That's what he was getting at when he said every man and woman is a star. And obviously you're important, and the astrological type correspondence too. So there's levels to it, but the main thing you're saying was if you find your life's will or your passion, your mission on Earth, then you won't have too many difficulties.
And the reason that they keep space around is because I think that occultists use it. I mean, it's a form of, depending like the occult and magic, right? Because we're here with the head of the Department of Magic of Florida in Florida here. How you mentioned earlier, right? Speaking of Star Wars, I think magic is like the Force. You tap into it, and you use it for whatever you want it for.
Mm-hmm.
You use it for good, you can use it for evil.
Yeah, I was reading Iamblichus yesterday. Pretty good stuff.
Yeah,
really good stuff. But the Neoplatonists call it theurgy. Yeah. It's just magic. There's literally
outside influences.
There's no difference. Like it's kind of funny that like if you read, like we had an author event here a few weeks ago, and the guy was talking about animism in witchcraft, which is just the idea that everything sort of is animate. Everything has like life to it. It's moving. It has like a level of like consciousness. And it was so funny because the way when he gave his definition of animism, it was just God. But he was calling, he's a witch. And in the pagan community, they don't like to use like Christian lingo. So he was describing this idea of animism, and I was standing there like, is this a joke or something? Like he's just describing how someone would say God, like the force moving the world, like that kind of thing. And forgot why I go.
And what you were talking about the priest earlier, or somebody in a
theurgy,
church,
that's what it is,
it's theurgy. That's
Yeah.
what they're doing. They're invoking
Yes.
outside powers to affect their reality. Here in these buildings, these cathedrals, these churches, and all these things are laid out in a certain pattern, geomancy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In order to evoke
Right.
these entities or energies.
Yeah.
And Analog actually put me on a really great book. It's called something subtle energy, and it's about the idea of egregores and thought forms and all these things, and how they're using this global memory theater to charge these
It's interesting
entities.
you said memory, because Iamblichus, the way that he proves, because what he was fighting against was an ascetic tradition in Platonism. So people had become almost like Gnostic, where they're like the material world was like the demiurge is like evil, like this is where like bad matter is bad, you know.
That's Plato.
And we need to transcend it. But Iamblichus catches them, because Iamblichus was the trippiest of the bunch. He was more like Pythagorean. He was into magic and astrology and all that. And he cites Plato. He says that Plato's theory of recollection, that we don't learn something, you know, we recall it, we remember it, that is dependent on matter, that we have to see things happen in order to remember, like, oh, like that's how it works.
Ooh, yeah.
And so Iamblichus says that means that matter is the bridge. It's what separates us from like the divine, but also the bridge to the divine too. And so he says that matter is actually the tool to get there in through theurgy, through magic. And so he says if matter can be in certain combinations, when things happen in front of you in the material world, allow you to recall things or learn things, that you can set them up in time-tested ways, material things, to make you recall, sort of like unlock a key in your brain, recall things. So it's just magic. It's just theurgy.
That's
and
why
he proves it using like Platonic recollection. Really interesting.
In ceremonial magic, they use different tools, and I think that's supposed to, it's represent, right, the law of correspondence. This tool, this dagger is the air dagger or the chalice of fire or whatever. I think it's used for that. And the Timucua, they would always make sure whenever they did their rituals, they would have all four elements present. So they were alchemizing. Whenever they would do anything, they would have all four elements always present: earth, water, whatever the other ones is. They would have it present because they believe they believed in three different worlds, and in order to combine them all, they would, right, blood was at the center of it all, because they believed that that type of sacrifice would collapse the worlds in on each other.
There's so many different trinities, because even the Platonists and the Neoplatonists have their own trinity, and it's this idea of the Platonic forms, this sort of heavenly
divine
area,
world.
Divine world of like ideal forms, the nous. There's the material world that we're experiencing, and then there's the creative intellect that is almost 3D printing from the divine forms into reality at every given moment.
Whoa.
And so it's a trinity of creation happening in every single moment, almost like a movie. And it's taking forms and printing them into material.
From the perfect form, you get the imperfect horse, but it's still a horse from the perfect
And so
form.
that was their trinity. And then and obviously the Greeks have like the logos, ethos, pathos. And I mean, I don't even have to say the Christian trinity. In Hinduism, they have whatever, it's Shiva and Brahma and whatever. I'm not a Hinduist.
The maintainer, the destroyer, the creator, all in
There's
one.
a third one. I don't think it's Krishna, right? No, it's Shiva, Brahma, and
Baba Rishka, Baba
who's the
Nama.
third one? Forgot
Hang on,
what
let's
it
take
was.
another call. Let me put my headphones on.
That's really interesting. Bro.
Guy Fawkes. What's up, man?
Hey.
How can the doctor be of service? Or the wand himself?
This is ridiculous.
Andrew just chimed in. It's Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva.
I can't. My thing's frozen, bro. My thing's frozen, bro.
But I know very well I don't. Maybe it's easy.
What's up, guy?
Can't hear you.
You guys
This
see
guy?
me?
Yep. Shoot.
Oh well.
We can see it. We can see it.
Oh well. So what's up? Trying to talk for a while. Last time we got this Montana and the service was up here.
Yeah, his connection's not working. Zephin, what's up, man?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes,
am
sir.
I muted?
What's up, Zephin?
Oh, okay, cool. Hey, what's up?
This live stream is like the Grateful Dead. It sucks if you are not high as fuck.
That's awesome.
Well, it's a good thing I am.
So what's up, Zephin?
Just chilling, guys. You were talking about some Walter Russell, some Ken Wheeler.
Nice.
Hoping to jump in, ask you guys a bit. All right, so am I lagging?
I mean, there might be a little bit, but you have the floor.
Okay, sorry about that. So I want to talk to you about matter first. Just a quick question here for you guys. There's a lot of ideas out there as to what like matter actually is. Some subscribe to the idea that it's just a certain frequency of vibration that creates matter. Some people think it's a pattern of light or a mode of light. I was wondering if you guys had any thoughts about that as far as.
You want to take this?
Yes. Does that matter?
Yeah.
So Alfred North Whitehead said that man is like Medusa, where everywhere he looks, things turn to stone. So they become materialized. We turn everything into like hard matter. Really good quote. It makes you think. But Alfred North Whitehead and Walter Russell, these people are really important. Whitehead said that the world is made of a process. So there's no static anything. Everything is constantly moving. It's always in a process of creation. Like I was saying, almost like a 3D printing, a movie, just constantly going. And things are being, there's a God basically in between the forms and what manifests in reality. There is an intellect that is choosing forms to manifest themselves. There is like a deciphering mind in between those two. And yeah, I mean, even Einstein said matter and energy are the same thing. Like it's not a far out theory, you know. Matter is just energy. It's all in waves. You know?
Particles in the wave are the same.
Yeah.
Particle or the wave. Distance.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and that would make sense, right? The divine architect, the divine alchemist, always at work, right? Pushing the buttons on that 3D printer to see what form is going to print next. Absolutely.
You know, the greatest architects of whatever your view on like the old world or Tartaria or geopolymer is, whoever these people were, they had shamanic insight and they could see the grid. There's a grid. There are cities all around this realm that are not erected yet, that are visible, kind of like some, you know, we've discussed in moments when there is no time.
I'm pretty erect.
When you're in the subconscious, you can see cities. Some people have glances into this insight, and like we've talked about, Masons have feel like an obligation to erect matter in the likeness of these energetic, you know, internal landscapes that can be uncovered through like occult, you know, research.
And it plays into architect as magician. I mean, back then the architect was the magician because they had to divinate, right? So you're talking about synesthesia is a real thing where people see number and shapes and colors and all that stuff. And architects had to divinate as far as 100 years from now, will the foundation of this building hold up? So they were divinating into the future. And they also had a process of manifestation. So it goes back to what Professor Longo was saying, where he's, you know, it's in the ether. When we get an idea, well, where does it come from? Does it come from a higher source, or they're downloads, or they're not? So it's, you know, it goes in the ether. It's in our mind, and they referred to it as in the Renaissance time as a fetus in your mind, as a little, an idea born in your mind.
Well, a feat. If you've brought an idea to completion, it's a feat.
Well, there
You've
you go.
accomplished.
So it's a fetus in your mind, and then from there it goes to a medium like the model or a paper, another set of, right, and the grid paper, right, the Cartesian coordinate system, right, which is at the core of a lot of these CAD systems.
And that's what I'm saying is with outside of Western Hermetic thought, you have these like entheogenic, shaman traditions. They'll take these. This is what I was trying to describe, where they'll take heroic doses of mushrooms or DMT, whatever, and they'll see these are people who live in the jungle, and they can paint like cityscapes.
Well,
perfect, like man's impulse to industry and like erect glorious buildings is not unique to like one culture, or it is you peer through the veil, and the most glorious buildings, like what people think of as Tartarian, the beautiful arches, the colors, the the detail that does not serve a purpose other than beauty. A lot of these things I call ether scrapers, like a skyscraper scrapes the sky metaphorically, right? Well, when you see some of these temples, the way that they the fringes come out, the way that the embellishments, the decorations, the little the cultural motif that finds itself like most displayed in, for example, a Japanese building. You see like the little corners and angles sticking off at the peaks, and it's very then you see the Moorish buildings. It's very curvature. All of their little appendages coming off the buildings are very curvaceous. Well, these are just different lenses seeing into this subconscious cityscape that even people in the Amazon see. So they've never seen a 3-story building, some of these guys, and they're drawing in some of these paintings like cathedrals.
The plants told them, right?
But then when you said the grid, that's what made me think of it, is there is also like a grid. When you see like,
it's called the occulted scaffolding. It's a real thing where again, it's in the background and the behind the scenes, if you will.
It's like, have you ever played Grand Theft Auto and taken your car, gone like 200 miles an hour in one direction for like way too fast, way too quick, and the game can't keep up? And you're loading, and like you get a glimpse of like the grid, you get a glimpse of like behind the, and well, some of these shamans, they see a perfect grid system, and they see serpents weaving through the grid.
Analogous told me about that.
He spoke about that.
And where they cross, they build their cities.
Oh yeah,
or their civilization, or their sacred places. Plato talked about when you first overtake a civilization or another people, go to their sacred places.
You know what?
Shrines.
You know what Jung needs to get into, and Zephin. I think Zephin's still in here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is that too much?
Is that too much? Or?
No, that was awesome. I'd like to add one thing about energy that I've actually figured out myself recently, if that's all right.
Go for it.
So I don't know if anybody likes to play around with trying to figure out how to, make their own energy for their house, electricity and whatnot. But I came across a video a year, maybe 2 ago, about this guy trying to explain light and electricity. Anyway, I ended up doing a few experiments that, he kind of suggested. And it turns out that you can get electricity from LED lights by having the sun aimed at them and having the proper setup with your wires, which means, right. So you can just kind of pull electricity out of, thin air.
So are you saying like, this reminds me of music. Are you saying that the light itself can intake energy and send it backwards through the wire to an output?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now that I've used that type of dynamic in an audio context many times, how a microphone, any microphone, especially dynamic, directional microphones, or speakers.
Can you talk into a speaker and it comes out to her?
Oh yeah, a microphone and speakers are the same. So the cone, there's little cones in your earbuds. In some of these microphones, there's the same effect. It's not always a cone, it might be a ribbon, but there's a vibrating piece. And this can go both ways. They're only manufactured to cater to one of those, like these are for listening. But you could, with the right knowledge, this is a microphone. And there's many musicians. I learned about this, learning about like guitar recording and audio secrets of music and music engineers, how they would take, the secret sound on this song was he was singing into the speaker of a guitar amplifier.
Crazy.
I was like, whoa, you mean sound goes both ways? It's not like a directionally interpreted thing. It can be sent backwards. And so that was mind blowing.
It's like lightning can come from the ground up.
Right.
Do that.
Yeah. So you did the episode on lightning, was really interesting too.
So I had more to add specifically on that in that vein was you can use different colors on your LEDs and it will produce different voltages and amperages. So I have found that the red color spectrum gives you the best amps, whereas I think it's the blue, it's either blue or green spectrum gives you the best volts, or best, I mean by most, right? So if you need to have more amperage, you could be using red LEDs. And if you needed more voltage, you could use blue, green, and yellow is interesting because it's a mix of both, right? So like the colors, you get a decent amount of amperage and voltage from the yellow spectrum. And I guess the most interesting one is that the UV colors give you the highest voltages without basically any amperage, which which makes them almost effectively useless unless all you need is voltage. But trying to mix stuff is a lot harder than it sounds. But yeah, no, I just was messing around with that, and yeah, no, it's not just how solar companies get their power, but you can really just pull it out of the air, not out of the air, you're aiming it at the sun, but the point is you could get it if you know what you're doing. And it's not overly expensive to create your own solar power design that could give you a decent amount of electricity, but the problem is capturing the sun as it moves. You have to really plan that out, because for whatever reason, and I haven't figured this out specifically why yet, but with LEDs, you have to have a very specific angle that you are aiming at the sun at all times. Any deviations of like 3 degrees will completely cut off whatever you're gaining. So,
wow. Well, thank you, Zephin.
Yeah.
Good topics. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Take it easy, bro.
Peace, Zephin.
Got donut in there too.
Hey, boy. What's up, Debbie? How's it going?
Hey. Hi guys. Forgive me, I'm not able to watch like every minute of all the streams, but I like the topics. This is something I personally look into. And I did have a question, but I wanted to talk about the old therapies they used to use for radium ointments, radium water, radium, like literally everything. Like if you go search on images, you'll find all of these old advertisements from like the late 1800s or whatever that shows that they were using it for cancer treatments, and they would have before and after pictures showing that like the tumors completely went away. And I looked into one of these ointments and I forget what it was called, but I was like, well, what happened? And it was this one person that claimed that this one person died, and they claimed that it was because of the radium ointment. But everybody was using these ointments. Everybody was using it. And so it's like they set them up to make it look like it was actually harmful.
Right.
And you have to preface talking about this on YouTube that no one's advocating to try radium. No one's saying that because it's known now, like they talk about it being very like deadly and everything. But it's interesting how before everybody was using it and they were living long and they were fine and they were healthy and they were like using radium in their fireplaces and like the Tartarian fireplaces that everybody talks about. Actually, there's like pictures of like the elite sitting around and like using radium as a light source, a heat source. So it was widely used, and then around the beginning of like the 1900s, they started like saying it was bad. But it's interesting how all the natural springs and like a lot of the natural springs with the healing powers have this lithium. And I wanted you to kind of talk about how that could be possible. And is it possible that they tried to say, kind of like the pharmaceutical industry, that, oh, that's bad, but somehow they're using radiation for cancer now? I don't know. Like,
yes.
Maybe that was the better form. I don't know. Is there something you can add to that?
Yes. Well, thank you. That's a good topic, Debbie. I was actually just yesterday at Florida's radioactive radium fountain. I filled up 2 bottles myself. I drank radium. My assistant had some, his girlfriend.
It was good.
We took a bong rip with some of the radioactive water.
Got a good 4-minute clip of that bong rip.
Nice.
So I took it. I'm okay. I feel really good. John D. Rockefeller was, I'm going to take
this
these
is not
headphones
medical
off.
advice.
It was specifically.
So this is not medical advice.
Yeah, not medical advice. It's spiritual advice. So John D. Rockefeller would buy water from one certain spring, Orange Springs in Florida. Orange Springs Bottling. John D. Rockefeller would only drink and bathe in that water. Now, they've done testing in that area, and there's radium. The fountain we went to has an exceptionally high radium content, but even with all the hysteria, it's still blown out of proportion to where even a mainstream chemist will say, even if you drank that every day of your life forever, you're at no risk of radiation poisoning. So, but then you have the issue of radon. In some poorly ventilated areas, radium, I'm not a chemist, so I'm using, rudimentary vocabulary here. Radium like oxidizes into radon, which is a gas form that can be very toxic and can kill you on the spot. Allegedly. I've never seen that. I'm not an expert, like I said. But radon is the more deadly of the two. Radium, radon.
Okay.
Radium, with the Radium girls, that was all like a propaganda hysteria event.
Because people say, "Oh, well, Radium girls."
So
that's always the first thing everybody uses as an excuse, and it's like that one thing. But what about the lead paint?
Exactly. It was just glowing because of the radium, but there was millions of other things in that factory that could have been killing the people that went in, or it could have been orchestrated from top to bottom. But
anything glow in the dark before maybe the 70s or something with radium until they switched to tritium.
There's still guns with radium sights.
Yeah.
There's still watches with radium sights.
Yeah, people collect the watches in particular because they stopped making them and they're measurably radioactive.
Well,
yeah.
And they're like expensive watches already, but that makes them even more like collectible.
They even used these old looks like wood stoves, but they didn't have smokestacks because they were putting radium in them for heat.
Those are most common.
And later on, you can tell like the little vent at the bottom of the wood stove looks like the symbol they use now for radium, the 3 triangles. that was like the little thing they would use for the heat or whatever. Like there was no like smokestack, and later on they added smokestacks to these stoves. But the original like stoves they were using, and they're beautiful, and it's like you see these old drawings of people like sitting around them and using it's like this green light, and they used it for, it's like a lost Tartarian technology. And I think they really did a good job getting everyone to believe that it was harmful. But what if that was a lie, you know? And I'm not saying to do any of that stuff, but if you look, there's like all these old like radium ointments and everything, and it's insane. What if they lied about it?
They did lie about it. Florida was a radium mining capital of the world. That's why the Nazis kept trying to come here, World War II and before World War II. That's why Rockefeller, Edison, you name it, Plant, Flagler, they all came down here. They were taking the steam energy grid and crossing it over to petroleum, largely, or coal, petroleum. In the case of Flagler, coal. But you hit the nail on the head with the fireplaces, because where do you find that most in the world with the least reasoning for it is Florida, especially South Florida. Vizcaya. There are these massive ornate fireplaces that, like you're saying, well, first off, they'll have a $1 million fresco painted on top of them. So there's no smoke coming out of that fireplace, or else the painting would be ruined. So it is a cool radium. We sell these little
heathens
pucks of charcoal that go with your incense, right? Well, that size piece of radium would power a house for years and years and years, because you could submerge it in water, and the steam that it would produce would be enough to run a train across the country. You could sit it in your living room, and it would, now granted, I don't know what I'm doing with any of this stuff, but you could use it for healing effects. You could use it to cook your food. You could use it to purify your water, all of these things. And that fireplace, being the strongest part of the house, is not always, especially not in Florida, designed for heating the home. It's designed for housing the most volatile material in the home, which would be some radioactive.
I would say I just wanted to maybe request that you guys do a video about how the just talking about like the facts, where you cover what actually happened to these companies that made these radium therapies, and how they actually, like, what actually happened when they were shut down, and why they were shut down, and so that people can see like, it was based off of one person's testimony or something like that. Like, just so we can see like the history of how it really got faded out. Without promoting anything, because it's such a touchy subject, and putting it on YouTube could be you got to be careful. So I'm just saying, like, it would be cool to go into the facts of, like, because when I looked into, I forget the name of the company, but there's this one particular, like Fowler's Cream or something like that. And it would, like, I read all of this stuff, and it was about this one person that really ruined it for the whole thing. And it was just crazy. And it was like tied to like these elite people that were trying to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they wanted it all for themselves. The military industrial complex wanted it as an energy source. The medical industry wanted it away from people because it can cure disease in certain applications. But yeah. Well, thank you, Debbie. Thanks for calling.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good.
Sorry, bro. My chat is like cancer over here, bro.
There you go. It's your boy, Juan. What's up, Donut?
Hey, what a wonderful show this has been. Thank you.
Yo, what up? It's these nuts.
Yo, what up, homunculus? I had a question about earlier on, you were talking about kitty cats and fish, in Japan, and the suicide rates being high. And it made me think about the samurai culture. And one of my favorite books is the Hagakure. Not sure how to pronounce it, but they made a movie called Ghost Dog. And it's one of my favorite films. So I read this book on the samurai code. And one of the things that it says is if you could choose life or death, choose death. And it just seems very like Hashashin-esque. I didn't know if you had any commentary on the samurai or the ninja or even the Hashashins with Toxoplasmosis or the parasite, the Illuminati worms.
It's a great connection because samurai, I see what you mean. Like in terms of rushing head on into certain death, Toxoplasmosis would aid in that type of mindset. So if you could get your warriors, a group of people under this group mindset, you'd have a quite effective.
Someone said kamikaze pilots too.
Oh yeah, definitely
kamikaze.
And some samurais also practice soku shimbutsu, which is a form of self-mummification.
Oh my god.
There's a few different.
That where they do
ones.
it slowly?
Where it takes 3,000 days. It takes about 8-10 years, and they mummify themselves. What?
I'm just reacting to it.
It's crazy.
It's crazy,
yeah,
bro.
It's crazy.
So it's like choose death, right? Always choose death. Well, that's great. What is it? Senpuku?
Yes,
they call it.
Yeah.
Where again, this is a real phenomenon. But the thing is that when they self mummified themselves, they weren't dead.
Yeah.
They were still alive and they were deified. Then they were put in a shrine and they were worshipped because they were
living in the mummy.
Well, they attained the highest level of Buddha, or whatever it was that it was like some sort of trance that they were in, right?
Wow.
So and it's got to go again to Kobo Daishi and like all these other saintly guys that they had back then. But yeah, they always go refer back
I
to
think
them.
they say Alexander the Great was buried alive.
They say he was mellified, which is buried in honey. And
no, but that he basically they thought he was dead. But experts now think that he was basically like in a coma or something, like
unresponsive.
Yeah,
comatose.
Yeah,
can you imagine that? Just like you wake up,
they're like bring out the honey, like
Well, yeah, that
dunk him. Like
the mellified man is a legend where they.
Do they know where he's buried? I don't think they.
I don't know.
No, I don't think they do.
I'm not sure.
I think it's a legend.
I've heard
like
about
Napoleon and Hitler and people were looking for his grave.
I like that connection that with the kamikaze pilots too. That's wonderful. With the summer solstice coming up, I've been looking into egg rituals. Like the beginning of the year, we had all these egg shortages happening, and the suck seed, suck eggs is number 69. In the summer solstice, the royal arch at the top, it has the 69. Just what are your thoughts this year with the summer solstice, because I believe this is where Burning Man comes from, and I'm always looking out for massive rituals that take place on the world stage with the elites.
Yeah, I mean, to summer is to simmer, so there is a fiery, like a frying connection.
Interesting.
Isn't Florida the 69?
So yes, the Tropic of Capricorn on some maps in like the 1500s went straight through Florida, and I guess they figured it out later. It's a little south. The Tropic of Cancer runs right underneath Florida. That's your 69 with the fluids, the metaphorically, fertile fluids of the planet originating from Florida. That would make sense. If the Gulf Stream swimming around there, if the Mississippi depositing right there, you have rain. It rains, so it's raining all the time. The cenotes and but the Yucatan's famous for its hot water and its fiery water. Like that's why there's all these devil springs, devils this, because there was hot water.
And the equator, right, is always said that was very hot.
Let me see if I wonder if that'd be a good connection if above that parallel or above the Tropic of Cancer, there's the cold water in Florida and below in the Yucatan. There might be the hot water, like a threshold.
Yeah, and I want to add too, because Donna brought up the Burning Man. What's related to the Wicker Man, and Wicker Man is quite literally translates to bending of reality. So who knows if this is like, again, like how the rocket rituals that they do right here in Cape Canaveral on the 20th parallel, which is the rank in Templarism, it's the rank of the sun and the sunshine state, and the Timucua worship the sun, right? So it's all connected. This idea of it's like a mass warping of people's realities real time. I mean, that's essentially what it is. That's what ceremonial magic is, taking this energy now, sending it back into the ether, and the same time every single year it comes back around, and you swing it right back around.
Well, when you burn something too, like we said it earlier, that matter is energy, and energy's matter. The easiest way to prove that is burning something. So when you burn something, it goes from material, and you're releasing all of that energy that's holding it together. So it becomes matter into energy. So it is like a alchemical thing.
And well, alchemy is referred to as a fire religion, because what does an alchemist do? They use the furnace. They burn things over and over again. Red book.
Yeah. Well, Agrippa, Cornelius Agrippa said that fire is man's element because nothing else on earth has fire. Only men have fire. There's no.
And it came from what? Prometheus. Right?
But no animal or anything, has fire. I mean,
here's
a dragon.
Here's a good connection: is summer, the solstice. It's not the solstice; it's after the solstice. But where do we get the dog days of summer? Well, summer that refers to August, but summer starting in Cancer, or the summer solstice. Cancer is where we get the word for dogs. So dogs, Cancer, canine, cannabis. You smoke cannabis with fire, of course. The dogs being associated with heat in summer eventually is where you get the dog days of summer. Now, if Cancer is the dog, canine, why is Virgo, like August, September, the dog days? Because Virgo rules pets in general. So it rules both cats and dogs. And you understand the Zodiac. You have Cancer, dogs. The next sign, Leo, ruling cats, of course, lion. The next sign, Virgo, ruling pets in general. So anything, cat, dog, deer, something that serves a human, because Virgo rules service.
Interesting.
So that's where you get dog days of summer. Cancer being the 69. Cancer is a water sign, but that's how it corresponds to heat and fire. The summer solstice, the 69 at the top of the arch, of course.
You said water.
You could make a whole sexual thing out of that too.
You said water, right?
Yeah.
Because recently I saw that, right? Because it's hurricane season, right? It's gonna be coming up, right? And there was a report, if you want to believe in HARP and all these other things, where essentially when we would have like a week in advance that they would let us know. Now it's going to go down to 2 days that they're going to let us know, because allegedly the hurricanes can now form right at our coast. So like, is that, like, what are they getting at?
Yes.
I had
that's, I don't know, man. I think some other manipulation, definitely some transmutation, alchemy going on.
On the topic of the Zodiac, I had just two quick questions, and just thank you so much. The helical rising, does this take place every year, or is this not every year? Because I know it's associated with the dog days. And also, what's the importance of August 10th? Because I've been reading some books, and Morals and Dogma, Albert Pike dedicated like his astrology in one of his temples to the date surrounding August 10th.
Yeah, I mean, it goes hand in hand with the precession of the equinox, because in certain ages you're going to have the same star coming over the solstice, summer solstice. I'm looking here at Wikipedia, and allegedly at some time Pleiades at the start of the Greek sailing season. Sirius is the dog star, of course. In Cancer, Canis, Canine, the dog. Is where you get Sirius Radio too, which also calls themselves Dog Star Radio.
What is dog spelled backwards, bro?
It's God, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get serious about this, guys. Okay.
Well, the hieroglyph of America, and if you look at the hieroglyph of Sirius, it's what America is based off of. You got the phallic, the dome, and the 5-pointed star on the flag.
Mm-hmm. Well, Texas probably is Sirius, the lone star. You have the crescent moon, and that star with the crescent is either going to be Venus or Sirius, per Islamic tradition. So
someone pointed
that's where you
out.
get Syria
Yeah.
from. Sirius. That's a country. You also have, there's more. Africa itself. Where does Africa come from? Venus. That's Venus. Aphrodite. The morning star. Afro. Something's Afro. Aphroditic. Aphrodisiac. Venus,
Yeah,
Venus.
the amnesia happening at the Taylor Swift concert. I'm not sure if you heard about this, but
Wait, what?
people going to Taylor Swift, getting amnesia, not remembering the concert, but looking at her latest music video with Ice Spice, I believe.
Her name is Isis too.
Yeah, her name's Isis, but they are showing a lot of Lucifer, Venus symbolism.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason why they're showing that right now, releasing the Renaissance tour and Taylor Swift tour?
What's that?
I said we were just in Taurus up until a week or two ago, so a lot of that was probably going on during Taurus, just ruled by Venus, and it's this close to the start of the year. It's fertility in like April and May.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Taurus is
with right cults like Taurus, right? Like the bull.
Yeah, it's the bull. It's fertility.
Mm-hmm.
It's fruit. So the bowl of fruit representing royalty or abundance. Taurus rules abundance and earned income, physical, material wealth. Taurus rules as well. So the bowl being invoked, not just the constellation, but in its properties, what it embodies. In a magical sense, you could pursue a bull deity in hopes of material wealth, income, material comforts.
Albert Pike and Taylor Swift are both Capricorns, so
interesting.
Taylor Swift's a Sagittarius.
Oh, Sagittarius, yeah.
They're
Morals
close,
and
though.
dog.
They're close. Oh yeah, morals and dog. That's a good one.
Wow. Yeah, there was a lot of symbolism of Isis. Is Isis connected to the bull at all? Because the old symbol of her is the disc in the bull.
Isis and Maya, Maria, Venus, Aphrodite, Lucifer, all the same, all synonymous in the astrotheological sense. Isis is the same.
Read that last.
It's Venus actually forms a type of crescent moon when viewed through a telescope. So this is where you're getting the bullhorn's upturned crescent is represented in the sky also on Venus. So Venus appears as a crescent much of the time, not only itself being in the clutches of the crescent moon, but if you zoom in on Venus itself, it's crescent-like. And Taurus is not only ruled by Venus, but is where the moon is exalted. So the moon, Venus, that's what makes Taurus. And Isis being ice. What does ice represent? People think ice and they think cold, but that's kind of, ice represents material, because if water is the most universal element that can be controlled, harnessed, understood, and ice is a metaphor for all matter because it's the condensed form. And as humans, we might think of it as cold and chilly, which is not in line with Venusian qualities. But ice is similar to saying matter, or mama, or you know, it's mother, ice, earth, material.
Interesting.
Wow, that's amazing because the girl's name's Ice Spice. So
Yeah.
cool. Well, thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed the show.
For sure, man. Donut, you're always welcome, bro.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Let's
Take it
do a
easy,
show
bro.
soon.
Peace.
Peace.
Yeah, we got to set up an episode with Donut soon. We got to do something with him.
Yeah. All right. You guys want to end it on that?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
It was pretty good.
Cool. Thanks, everyone, for calling in.
Catch you on the next one.
Yep.
Take care.
Later, everyone. Night.